All right, guess we are live. Welcome back to another Blue Mantis CIO Fireside Chat series. Today, we'll explore how embracing innovations and leveraging cutting-edge technologies and processes can empower your business to thrive in the ever-evolving digital landscape. I'd like to introduce you to our panel of speakers. And please, along this session, feel free to engage us in conversation, ask questions. We're looking forward to hearing your questions. I'd like to introduce you to my right, Adam Caponegro. Adam, welcome and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So my name is Adam Caponegro. I'm the VP of Managed Services. I've worked for Blue Mantis for a little over 2 years now. I'm currently responsible for the Managed Services team, which consists of a service desk team, a digital operations team, and a security operations team.
Very good. Welcome. Thank you for doing this. Jay Martin, welcome again.
Mario, Jay Martin here. I run the security practice. We're responsible for maturing customers' security posture and moving them through that security journey. I too have been here for just about 2 years. I think tomorrow will be 2 years. So that's pretty cool.
Cue the song tomorrow, please.
Thank you. What do I get?
You just got
a handkerchief.
That's
I
right.
want a pocket handkerchief.
Good. Jeff Smith.
Yeah, so I'm Jeff Smith. I'm the Senior Practice Director for the Managed Services practice. So I work primarily with our sales organization and positioning our service offerings within our customers and prospects, mapping their business objectives, operational requirements to what we can provide them as a service, and then kind of working through that whole process end to end until they become a customer and they're a consumer of our services, and then ongoing working with customers to make sure they're getting the most value out of our services. So.
Good job. Thank you. There we go. So this is a question for all of you. So you each talk to CIOs and other business executives on a daily basis. And could you give us, examples of the number one concern you hear from them and how these concerns impact our clients? I'll start with you, Adam.
Yeah, so I mean, speaking with the CIOs in our client group, they're challenged with the almost impossible task of providing an excellent end user experience, monitoring the critical infrastructure and services that run their applications that drive their business, and securing the environment too. It's a really difficult challenge to deal with. So, we spend a lot of time coming up with different ideas, different services, different go-to-market opportunities in order to service that need.
Yeah. Jay Martin, from the security perspective, my friend.
Yeah, I think, from a security perspective and operationally as well, Mario, right? I see the issue where CIOs are trying to keep the lights on, right? Plugging the dam, so to speak, right? Yeah. With fingers and trying to do the tactical part of keeping IT running and security running in a safe and secure manner. Yet there's a whole strategic part that sometimes is being neglected, and trying to get enough people to be able to do both stretches organizations very thin, and to get the skill sets required to be able to, have somebody who's very tactical, speak to the business. That's a special skill set, right?
Sure.
So I see that as, one of the issues that CIOs talk to me about.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Jeff Smith, you're clearly at the forefront of this with you and your team, speaking to our customers. What do you hear?
One of the biggest drivers for considering a managed service partnership is around IT skill and the ability to maintain and grow your capabilities from an IT operations perspective, maintaining the team and their skills in order for them to be effective and to provide the outcomes you need operationally. When you engage with a managed services provider, one of the things that is a benefit is you de-risk yourself from issues like staff attrition, skills gaps, training, deficits, things of that nature, because the MSP then takes over those risks. They become the ones that have to deliver that skill and that capacity to operate your environment. And it's all backed by SLAs and other kind of partnership agreement components that really drive the MSP to do that effectively. So for me, it's around skill and capacity in order to drive the operational excellence you need to deliver to the organization.
So while I have you, what's the advantage of CIOs organizations, generally speaking, partnering with a managed services provider like Blue Mantis to address the concerns that you just outlined?
Yeah, so one of the biggest benefits there is the ability to create an operational baseline of excellence within your organization. So being able to leverage managed services providers, people, process, technology capabilities, their maturity. Hopefully, they're bringing better platforms and tools than you may have access to internally, as well as the skills behind that. That creates a baseline of excellence that CIOs can then rely on. And then once they have that in place, they can refocus their attention on strategic initiatives, innovation, digital transformation, enhancing security, right?
Yep.
Those types of areas can become their primary focus because they've already solved the operational requirements issue.
Yeah, Jim Martin, from your perspective.
Yeah, I think if you think about organizations and the business outcomes they're trying to achieve in the organization, right? It's always cost containment, cost reduction, right? Improving end user experience, to their end users, and reducing risk, right? Those three. And I think those three are big factors in choosing an MSP, right? We talked about 24/7 services. How do you staff around the clock without the skill sets able to do that, right? How do you reduce risk and dependency? And we've seen this a lot, right? How many of you have read the Phoenix Project, right? Where they always relied on that one dude, Brett, right? Well, that Brett person is holding that organization hostage. So how do you get it out of Brett's head and spread it out into a managed services provider that can help ensure that you're reducing that risk, reducing the cost, right, and improving that end user experience?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, Adam, you are, you're in front of all of these operations on a day-to-day basis. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's well said here. I mean, there's a lot of concern around how am I going to scale and grow my business, right? There's a lot of concern around the changing velocity of technology, of services being provided today. How are we going to train and keep, retain staff, keep them skilled to do the job? So, that's where we really focus on. So, the 24/7 operations is critically important, making sure that, we're freeing up technical teams for the business, for them to be able to work on strategic initiatives.
Yeah, very good. Team, I'd like to do a poll question to the audience, if you don't mind. I'll ask the question. So when you are considering an MSP, which is your most important decision point? And while we'll wait for some of those answers, please feel free to ask us any questions that you might have on chat. We would appreciate it. While we're getting that question, hopefully we'll get it here quickly. And yeah, so 75% of you are saying extend the capabilities of existing IT team with specialized skills. Right, to your point, Jeff.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, this is interesting. I mean, I don't think there's clearly all of the above. We appreciate that, but any sort of surprises here on the answers?
Yeah, one surprise I have a little bit is just all the above is always the great answer, right? Because all these things really are good benefits that you can get from the proper MSP partnership, which is critical. Most MSPs do a really good job of the tactical nuts and bolts of IT operations, but it's really how you fit that whole thing together and deliver it in a way that drives even more business value and aligns to the actual outcomes of the organization that's consuming that service from you. Additionally, some of the philosophies and methodologies that these partners have are really important. Transparency is up there. I see someone just answered transparency. It's one of the cornerstones of what we do. It's about access not just to our people and the ability for us to solve problems, but it's information that we gain and collect, and what do we do with that over time? The historical information about their environment, access to our platforms and tools, the ability to co-learn between organizations, sharing information to makes both teams better. So that transparency for me is actually a really critical element, but all of these are very, very important.
Jim Martin, security. It's top of mind to probably everyone in our audience, including ourselves. How do we embed security mindset into all the services that we provide?
That's a great question, right? Everything is about security. You know, whether right, whether it's an endpoint, an end user, you know, clicking on an email link or a URL link in an email. You know, we talk about network devices and servers. Everything has to be secure, right?
Sure.
And more organizations are pushing that security right out to the edge. But you know, I think, you know, from a Blue Mantis perspective in our managed services, we first of all have a SecOps team where we embed that security, observability, analysts, and visibility into our organization. So if you select that as part of our managed services continuing as we onboard you, that's certainly, you know, something you get. The other piece is day-to-day operations requires diligent patch management, right? And we go back and forth on this all the time about the latest threats coming in. You know, we have a communication channel, you know, my security team and Adam's team are always communicating with each other about the latest threats coming out. And so having a proactive team to stay on top of that, I mean, it's the number 2 vector for bad actors to get in, right? Number 1's phishing, you know, that user, that the lowest point in the link. Number 2 is not keeping your systems up to date, patches up to date, allows bad actors to get in, move laterally, drop some ransomware, or do, you know, breach your data and take it and, you know, ransom you that way. So to me, that's how we embed it within the whole ecosystem.
Sure.
Right?
Adam, you manage this again on a day-to-day basis. I can imagine customers want to ensure that you know, their success and their security. So how do you answer this? How do you do it for us?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very important question. I mean, you know, we have a couple of things that we feel strongly about protecting, right? I mean, when it comes to critical data, intellectual property, client data, so on, our certification, SOC 2. So having a really strong and robust managed detection and response program is hugely important. Jay mentioned, you know, patching, you know, that is just table stakes, right? You know, in order to be able to do training, you know, end user training, phishing campaigns, making sure that the staff understands the threat landscape, the risk proposition, what that means to, you know, not only us as a company, but to our clients as well too. You know, we spend a lot of time with those programs.
Yeah. Jeff, you know, you're at the front of this conversation when you and your team are speaking to customers. How important is security for our customers?
Well, it's critical. You know, most organizations today, regardless of the industry they're in, the size they are, the types of technologies, or whether or not they think they have, you know, customer data or PII in their environment, they're all thinking about it. The way we address this really is in two primary factors. First is, you know, we align all of our services to a SOC 2 methodology. We have for the last almost decade. We invest heavily in making sure that everything that we bring to market from an operational service complies with those principles around SOC 2, trust principles, security principles. That's kind of the cornerstone. The second thing is we've kind of aligned all of our service offerings around a zero trust model. And what do we mean by that? That basically means that we look at the things that we do, that we drive, services that we drive to our customers, and we say, where are we assisting them with enhancing their security posture just natively by consuming our services? Now, we're never going to say that we're going to make someone compliant with a certain framework just because they use our service desk or they use our patching services. But what we can say is that we're not going to negatively impact your ability to reach those things. Customers are still going to have the accountability to do that, but we won't be a barrier there. We'll be an enhancement and an enabler.
Yeah, I like that enabler component.
Excellent.
Not to pick on you, Adam, but you know, I heard the phrase "we sip our own champagne," and Adam, talk a little bit about how Blue Mantis has invested in our own managed services capabilities that you manage for us.
Yeah,
and how that affects customers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we follow the exact same model, actually, you know, to what we provide our clients from a managed services perspective. So, you know, starting a couple of years ago, Jay Pisteris and I, our current CIO and CISO, started around the same time, and you know, we partner very closely with him and Jay Martin and others across the organization to provide the same services to Blue Mantis, right? I mean, we want to be a business enabler, particularly in the end user space, the digital operation space, definitely security, right? You know, security is really top rung of the ladder. So, So yeah, I mean, as a company that's going through a good growth cycle, we wanted to make sure that we're enabling, the company to be able to grow and scale.
Yeah. Jay,
Hey,
drinking your own champagne. Huh?
yeah, so all the way from, our new hires, right? They're onboarded. They get technology through our technology integration center, right? They build our, hardened gold copy system and ship it out to our new employees, right? All the way to how we manage, patch, and monitor our own environment, day in and day out administration. And also, Adam's team also provides our team, the Blue Mantis infrastructure, right? In Azure and on-prem, the ability to do security observability, right? So they're scanning our environment for us. We use email and URL filtering. We use security awareness tools.
Right.
His team manages all of that on behalf of our IT. So, absolutely day in and day out, sipping our own champagne. I don't love champagne, but maybe drink some really good bourbon. Sipping some good bourbon there.
I think that's Jeff's drink, I believe. Hey, Jeff. So when you speak with customers, how important is it that the fact that we do drink our own champagne?
Well,
how do customers react to
that? So it establishes instant trust, right? So we're an organization, to your point, we're growing rapidly. We've been in the industry 30 plus years. We have a reputation, right, within the industry. All of these things are testaments to the fact that we do follow a set of best principles and practices around security that have enabled us to have this kind of life cycle, right, as an organization. When you explain that to a customer or a prospect, it builds instant trust in the fact that if you're doing it for yourself and you're successful in doing it for yourself, I know that as a partner, at a minimum, you're not going to put me in a bad situation, because what you're doing for yourself is inherently trustworthy. So, because I can start a conversation there instantly, it provides both credibility. We know what we're talking about. We understand the landscape. We understand the approaches that customers need to take, and the fact that we measure our services ourselves in terms of their ability to keep us secure means that by that, just by an extension there, that they should feel the same way.
Yeah. Interesting. Team, I'd like to pose the second question, if I would. We clearly have a very shy audience today, but that's okay. So Blue Mantis takes a bionic approach to our delivery of managed services, where AI and ML technology augments the capabilities of our human experts. What is your number one concern about deploying AI in your business?
Yeah.
All right. Lots of quick answers. Thank you.
Good.
Very good.
That's good.
All over the place. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is great. Another all of the above.
All of the above.
That's okay.
No, they're still coming in.
Very nice. I'm sort of using sensitive data is interesting, right? But any thoughts here on some of the results?
Yeah, the using sensitive data in public cloud, I mean, that's a good one to focus on, right? Particularly from a security principle point of view. I mean, I think there's still a misconception out there that if you put your sensitive data in one of the public cloud service providers, Amazon, Google, Azure, that it's secure by nature. It's not, right? So that's a really important thing to know and understand for companies that are doing either lift and shifts or cloud migrations, that your sensitive data is not inherently secure as it moves to the cloud. That is still the responsibility of either the company or in partnership with a company like ours that's providing those services.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Jeff, on this?
Yeah, I'm interested to tackle the incorrect output response here. So you mentioned the term bionic. We use that term intentionally. Right. The reason we use that term is because we believe there is an element of benefit in using AI, machine learning, natural language processing type technologies to enhance what we deliver as a service offering. But it needs to be used in an appropriate way. It needs to be used to make the job of the people who own the responsibility to deliver those services more effective and more efficient. Obviously, there's a cost enabler component to that, but there's also just the sheer volume of information that gets generated by these types of services. It's almost impossible for humans to really digest the whole thing.
Of course.
Right? So Bionic really says we're going to use the machine to do a lot of the baseline work, but we're going to validate the output before we actually start taking actions. And in that way, we can further tune the machine over time, right? We can teach the machine to do a better job, which also means the output will get better over time as well.
Yeah.
You know, some of these, AI, services out in the market, I've heard they tend to degrade in terms of their capabilities over time as more data gets assimilated. Sometimes the data is incorrect, but when you're doing it in a controlled environment, you have the ability to adjust those parameters.
Yep. And by the way, correlating all of these events, right, to determine exactly what's happening in the infrastructure. Right?
Yeah.
Jay, do you see anything surprising here?
No, I'd like to focus on the criminal, the criminal part, and,
Of course you will.
and maybe go a little bit off script here from the meaning of what that one states. But we're finding bad actors using AI in situations where they're creating, malware and ransomware, and determining attack vectors in response to some of these AI engines. So, not only are we trying to use it to, it's like a cat and mouse game, man.
The bad guys.
It's continual, right? So AI and machine learning can be used in a very, good way, proactive, secure way, but it also can be used by the malicious, malicious people who have bad intent, right? And so, keeping on top of that and making sure that, you have the right defense in depth to protect your organization, right? And the right team behind them is paramount, right? Just because you have that AI and machine learning, you shouldn't rest on your laurels, right? In the protect mode, because they're using it on the attack mode.
All right.
Yeah, to that
That's the
point,
point.
and just to extend on that briefly, you have to think about it this way. If the industry or people around the industry, these nefarious actors, have access to a technology that enables them to do things differently, you have to leverage that technology for defense. Because if you don't, they're going to be ahead of you. They're going to be able to breach your defenses more easily because they've taken advantage of these advancements in technology. So it's almost a non-starter question in a way, right? You have to do it.
Yeah, Jeff.
You have to leverage it in some way.
Yep, 100%. Adam, how does Blue Mantis Managed Services empower a CIO with strategic competitive edge?
Yeah, I mean, for me, what's really important and what I cascade down to the teams is the partnership end of that, right? So it's really important. We have the tools, we have the teams, we have the skill sets in order to provide a various degree of services to our clients. But as a differentiator, we really want to make sure that we're acting as a trusted partner to their business, really understanding, beyond the patching and the end user support or the monitoring of critical infrastructure. What is really their business enablers, what's their business drivers, and how can we partner with them in order to drive that forward?
Yeah, Jay,
That's a really good point, Adam, that tight relationship and understanding the business, right? On top of that, I think CIOs are going to get a lot of information from our services. For instance, I use our managed services, right, to pull KPIs and metrics for our board of directors. Jay Pasteris, does have these meetings quarterly. So I pull those metrics for him and KPIs to show the progress we're making within security, right, or places where we need further investment, right? So that's key. And our customers have access to this data as well, right? Yeah. This isn't a closed box here. This is, a service. You have access to our people, build those relationships, but also access to the tools to get the information out that you need to run and support your business.
Yeah. Jeff, you probably hear this question all the time.
Yeah, so for me, it starts foremost with having our services aligned to the business outcomes. So when I talk to a customer or prospect about consuming our services, one of the very first questions I ask them is, why would you do this? Why would you do this instead of doing it yourself? What objectives are you trying to achieve? How are you trying to change the game? based on how you have been doing it to a new dynamic, right? By using a managed services provider. So that alignment is key. Once you have the services delivering against those outcomes, then the CIO can really shift their focus and attention away from the day-to-day operations of the service, because it's performing to the level that they need. They can then start thinking about strategic initiatives, new projects, things that drive growth, that drive enhancement to the business, because they know they've got that foundational level of operations nailed. They know what to expect on a daily basis. They know what parameters equate to goodness in terms of outcomes. We're measuring against those. To your point, Jay, we're sharing all that information in real time. They have access to our platforms, our tools. They can see historical data. They have all this at their fingertips that they may not have had before. So we really hope that they leverage all those things as additional value when they engage with us.
Excellent. Well, there you go. Thank you again for answering the poll questions, and big thank you for being here to talk to our customers. We hope to meet you in the future. And with that, we're going to leave you with some coffee that you'll get as a result of spending time with us.
Nice.
Have a great day. Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you.
And let's meet in the future.